Of course. Here is the English translation of the provided Russian text. Midnight. The truck struggled along the broken road, bouncing over potholes. Victor gripped the steering wheel tighter, stealing glances at his daughter. Lisa was dozing in the next seat, wrapped in an old blanket. Her thin little face seemed almost translucent in the morning light. "Dad, will we be there soon?" she asked quietly, opening her eyes. "Soon, sweetheart, soon. Just a little bit longer, be patient." Victor himself didn't know if he had made the right decision. 3 months ago, the doctors had given his daughter a terrible diagnosis, a rare blood disease, expensive treatment that hardly helped, and then a council of doctors with their sympathetic looks and quietly spoken words. 6 months, maybe a little more if you're lucky. He hadn't accepted it. He couldn't. He decided to sell his city apartment and everything he owned, and with the last of his money, he bought this derelict house in a remote village. His neighbor from the stairwell, old Vera Petrovna, had whispered to him about the healing water from a local well. She said that during the war, people were saved by it, and that the water there was special, alive. The ravings of a superstitious old woman, Victor had thought then. But when the doctors threw up their hands, this raving became his last hope. The village greeted them with silence and desolation. Tumble-down huts, overgrown vegetable gardens, not a soul around. Their house stood on the outskirts. Behind it, the forest began. A 2-story wooden structure with peeling paint, a creaky porch, and broken windows in half of them. "It's beautiful here." Lisa smiled, climbing out of the car. Like in a fairy tale. Victor hugged his daughter's shoulders. She was only 13, but she had already learned to pretend, learned not to show her pain, not to complain, even when she cried into her pillow at night from the attacks. The first days were spent settling in. Victor boarded up the windows, fixed the stove, and put at least a couple of rooms in order. Lisa helped as much as she could, dusting, hanging the curtains they had bought on the way. She tried so hard to look healthy that it broke her father's heart. The well was discovered on the 3rd day. Victor was clearing the yard of weeds and came across a half-ruined wooden frame, hidden under a layer of last year's leaves and ivy. He lowered a bucket on a rope inside. It went down deep, very deep, and when he pulled it out, the water was surprisingly clean and cold. "Is that the well?" Lisa asked. "Probably." Vera Petrovna said it was the only one here. They started drinking the water from the well. Victor didn't believe in miracles, but what did he have to lose? Lisa drank obediently, 3 glasses a day, as he instructed. She said the water was tasty, slightly sweet. He himself didn't notice anything special. Ordinary well water, like anywhere else. But a week later, something strange happened. Lisa woke up cheerful for the first time in many months. Her cheeks turned pink, her eyes sparkled. She came down for breakfast almost running, not slowly, as usual, and holding onto the wall. "Dad, I feel so good. Maybe we can go for a walk in the forest." Victor couldn't believe his ears. Just yesterday, his daughter could barely get out of bed. "Lisa, let's not rush. Let's observe for a couple of days." But with each day, Lisa became more and more active. A blush appeared on her face, her appetite returned, and in the evenings she asked for permission to walk around the yard. Victor was afraid to believe, afraid to jinx it. At night, he lay awake, listening to his daughter's breathing. Even calm breathing of a healthy child. Maybe the doctors were wrong, he thought. Or is this a temporary improvement before? No, not that. He pushed these thoughts away. He had to believe, just believe. And then the sounds began. The first time Victor heard them was 2 weeks after their arrival. Deep night, complete silence, and suddenly something strange came from the darkness. Not quite a grinding, not quite a moan. Muffled, coming as if from underground. He jumped out of bed, listened. Silence. It seemed. The next night it happened again, but now more distinct. Victor threw on his jacket and went out into the yard. The sound grew louder. It was coming from the well. With a flashlight in his hand, Victor approached the frame. The beam of light picked out the old, blackened wood, overgrown with moss, from the darkness. The sound died down. He shone the light down. Black emptiness. Couldn't make out anything. Having found out nothing, he returned to the house. But the sounds repeated every night and became more persistent. Sometimes it resembled scratching, sometimes a faint cry. Lisa, it seemed, didn't hear anything. She slept soundly, while Victor almost stopped sleeping. A month after their arrival, he couldn't take it anymore. Lisa was falling asleep earlier and earlier, which was strange for her improving condition. She asked for more and more water from the well, drinking it greedily, as if she couldn't get enough. And at night the sounds became almost deafening. That night, Victor made a decision. He prepared a rope, a flashlight, securely fastened a safety line, waited for the sounds to reach their peak, and began to descend. The frame was deep. Meter by meter, he descended into the darkness, clinging to slippery stones. The water below splashed, reflecting the flashlight's beam. The cold chilled him to the bone. And then he saw it. At the bottom of the well, right at the water's edge, lay something white. Victor pointed the flashlight and froze. A skeleton, a human skeleton in tattered rags. But that wasn't the worst part. Around the bones on the stones grew strange, pale plants. Long, vine-like stems with fleshy leaves stretched up from the water, entwining the bones. Victor's heart beat wildly. The plants glowed faintly in the dark with a ghostly greenish light, and they were moving, slowly, barely noticeably, reaching for him. He jerked the rope sharply and began to climb up. His hands were shaking. The flashlight slipped out and fell down with a dull splash. In the darkness, he could hear more clearly. The plants were scraping against the stone, growing, crawling up the walls of the well. Victor climbed out, breathing heavily. Dawn was just beginning to break. He sat on the edge of the frame, unable to move, trying to comprehend what he had seen. And then it dawned on him. The water. These plants grow in the water. The water that Lisa drinks, that makes her healthier, rosier, stronger. What have I done? Victor cried out. He burst into the house, ran up the stairs to his daughter's room. Lisa was sleeping, arms outstretched. In the moonlight, her skin seemed almost translucent. Victor looked closer and saw under the skin on her wrists, thin greenish veins appearing, barely noticeable, but they were there. They pulsed in time with her breathing. Lizanka, he whispered, shaking his daughter's shoulder. Wake up. She opened her eyes, and Victor recoiled. In the semi-darkness, his daughter's pupils reflected the light with a strange greenish gleam. Dad, what's wrong? Her voice sounded sleepy, but there was an unusual strength in it. How are you feeling, daughter? Great, Dad. Better than ever. She sat up in bed. It's just a little strange, though. I'm always thirsty, and I have strange dreams. Like I'm underwater, in the dark. But I feel good there. Victor went cold. What had he done to his daughter? He had tried to save her, but had doomed her to something incomprehensible, unknown. For the next few days, he watched Lisa, torn between horror and hope. Yes, there were changes, but she wasn't sick at all. For the first time in 6 months, no pain, no weakness. She ran, laughed, lived. Only, she asked for water more and more often, and spent more and more time by the well, dipping her hands into it, as if listening to something. Victor stopped giving her water from the well, bringing it from a store in a neighboring village. Lisa didn't protest, but became more and more lethargic. The veins on her arms darkened, the blush faded, and after 3 days she could barely get out of bed again. Dad? She whispered one evening, from our well. Please. You can't, Lizanka, you can't. That water, it's strange, unusual. I know. She looked at him with her changed eyes. I can feel it all. There's something down there, something alive. It shares its life with me. You see, Dad, someone died down there a long time ago, but not completely. They remained in the water, in these plants, and now they live in me. This is madness, Lisa. This is life, Dad. My life. Tears glistened on her cheeks. You wanted me to live. So I'm living. Differently, but I'm living. I'm not sick. I'm not dying. Isn't that what you wanted? Victor fell to his knees beside his daughter's bed. She was right. He wanted her to live at any cost. And the cost turned out to be this. And what do we do now, he whispered. Accept it. Lisa stroked his head. We'll find a way to live on. I feel that I can control it. Drink a little, just as much as needed. I'll be careful, but don't let me die. Dad, please. That night, Victor went down into the well again with a flashlight and a clean bucket. He drew water right from the bottom, where the strange plants grew. He looked at the skeleton in its decayed clothes. Who was this person? When did they end up here? And what force made them continue to exist in this water, in these plants, giving life to others? Victor noticed the remains of a locket by the skeleton and carefully took it. An old trinket with a faded photograph inside. A young woman with a child in her arms. On the back, a barely legible inscription, "To my beloved, 1943. The war." This person had sought salvation here in the well. From whom was he running? From the fascists? From hunger? Or was he hiding and couldn't get out? Or perhaps he knew about the special power of this place and consciously chose to remain here, to become part of the water, to later help others. Victor peered at the plants. They didn't seem hostile, more like waiting, ready to share that strange life that pulsed in their stems, the life of someone who had once loved so strongly that they couldn't leave completely, remaining here for the sake of others. "Thank you," Victor thought mentally, and began to climb up. Lisa drank a little water, just half a glass, and her cheeks turned pink again. Again, her eyes sparkled with life, a special, unusual, but life. So they remained in that house, in the remote village next to the well. They learned to live with this secret. Lisa drank the water once every few days, just enough to stay healthy. The veins on her arms became familiar, like birthmarks. The glow of her eyes in the dark was their little secret. Victor hung the locket on the wall in the living room. He didn't know why, but he felt it was right to preserve the memory of the one who had given them this strange miracle. Sometimes at night, sounds still came from the well, but now Victor understood them differently. It wasn't a threat, it was a call, an invitation, a promise of life. And every time he looked at his laughing daughter running around the yard, he thought, well, isn't this a miracle? Strange, frightening, incomprehensible, but a miracle. His miracle. The well kept its secret, and they kept the life and memory of that nameless hero who had once made his choice and remained here forever to save others. In the autumn, a neighbor from the nearest village stopped by. An elderly man with kind eyes. He brought apples from his orchard. "I see your daughter has recovered," he remarked. "The water helped." Victor nodded cautiously. "My grandmother used to tell a story," the neighbor continued. "She said that during the war, a woman hid in this well with a child. She was escaping from the Germans. But she never got out. And after the war, people noticed the water became special, healing, it cured many. Only you have to drink it wisely, not be greedy. It gives life, but everything has its price." The neighbor left, leaving Victor with heavy thoughts. A woman with a child, like in the photograph in the locket. So the sacrifice was conscious. The mother chose to save others, even at the cost of such a terrible transformation. In the evening, Victor told Lisa about it. She was silent for a long time, looking at the locket on the wall. "So, she understood," the daughter said quietly. "Understood that she would become part of the water, part of this place, and still agreed, for the sake of future people, for people like me." Father and daughter sat in the semi-darkness of the living room. Outside, night was falling. From the well came a quiet, almost lulling sound, like a lullaby from the depths of time.